celebrating 48 years on the air. Award-winning Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, the chair of the EEOC talks about foreign worker visas. Plus, we're back inside Extension this week looking at new ways to market soybeans. In Southern Gardening, we're perched on the Mississippi, showcasing an incredible bluff garden. And in our feature, why Mexico isn't living up to a water treaty with the U.S. Farm Week starts right now.
Hello everyone, I'm Zach Ashmore.
And I'm Mike Russell. Great to have you with us again here on Farm Week. First up, no question, the ag sector has strong labor needs. The issue of who's here and doing which jobs was recently at the center of policy debates on Pennsylvania Avenue. The issue was also the center of a Senate hearing involving leadership of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Peter Tubbs has more.
The Senate Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions held a hearing on the nominations for leadership positions in the Department of Labor and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Andrea Lucas, acting chair of the EEOC, who has served the commission since 2020, defended the EEOC's actions on employers violating the use of H-1A and H-1B visas for foreign workers.
Can you walk me through some of the trends that you're seeing on that front in cases like those, and what motivates that discrimination?
Yeah, it can be found in almost every industry. How it plays out varies. I think that when you look at warehouse businesses, agricultural, manufacturing, it is often Hispanic preference, but sometimes it is another preference for foreign workers. Either way, it is often motivated either by racial bias, the assumption that a particular racial group that you're bringing in of an immigrant will be more motivated than the local white or black workforce. And sometimes it's motivated by economic arbitrage, the sense that you'll be able to pay them less because at any point you could deport them. We've seen everything from, again, Hispanic worker preference to importing workers from the Philippines that they can, on visas, that they can, at the moment's notice, get deported, revoke their visa, or move them all over the country. We also have seen it in the tech industry in particular with preference for H-1B visa workers at the expense of, again, local workers. So it can come up in both high school workforces as well as your frontline manufacturing jobs. It can also come up in terms of company towns where instead of employing hardworking Appalachian workers that are in your local communities, you are, again, importing foreign workers, decimating those towns and creating kind of a captive workforce again. It's a serious problem.
Muchísimas gracias.
In other news, needless to say, Iran is also at the center of debate on numerous levels. President Trump urged restraint in its battle with Israel, saying Iran, assuming it comes to permanent grips with a ceasefire, could rebuild and be economically healthy again. It turns out some of the reason why is traced not just to its energy exports, but also to its ag potential. Here's a quick look at that side of the country. Known mostly as an oil producer, Iran also has a robust agricultural sector. The country has a fairly diverse range of climate zones, which open it up to many different crops. The major grain crops produced are similar to other countries in the region and here in the West, namely wheat, barley, corn, and rice. Iran is in the top 20 wheat exporting countries in the world. However, there are some limitations based on much of the land being too arid for this sort of farming. So most of this production occurs in the northwestern part of the country. However, the crops Iran is best known for are pistachios and saffron. Iran is the world's largest exporter of both. It's also among the largest producers of berries and stone fruits in the world, especially pomegranates, dates, figs, and cherries. The biggest challenges facing the Iranian ag industry has mostly to do with the climate of the region. Water scarcity is a major issue requiring careful use of irrigation and management. Soil degradation has also been an issue as a result of the arid climate throughout much of the country. Technology is also on the list of challenges, as farming techniques in many parts of the country are outdated compared to Western advances. However, Despite this issue, the Iranian ag industry is able to meet about 90% of the country's food needs. It's estimated that the gross production value of Iranian ag this year will be about $34 billion. Exports will be nearly $1 billion. Time for another edition of our popular Inside Extension series, in which we feature things about Mississippi State University Extension you may not be aware of. This story features MSU crop expert Will Maples. He's been overseeing a research project about a better way for farmers to market their soybeans. Research, of course, just one of the many ways that MSU engages with and serves the community at large. Take a look. Soybean farming is about more than planting, growing, and harvesting. There's also the factor of selling the crop. Most farmers have plans in place before seeds are in the ground. But what about the markets themselves? How can soybean farmers better market their crops? Dr. Will Maples at MSU has a project to find out.
Yeah, so for this project, we're looking at various marketing strategies for Mississippi soybeans. So the idea is that looking at different times of year used to sell soybeans, should you use the futures market, forward contracting, how does storage come into play into marketing strategies, really just trying to get a better understanding of how do the markets move in Mississippi for soybeans and what kind of strategies can producers put into place to be see better profitability.
This project is being studied by a graduate student at Mississippi State who's immersed themselves into all aspects of soybean production, from planting to storage. They hope to study and find better opportunities for farmers to market their beans based on time of year.
Yeah, so we're going to be looking both at pre-harvest marketing strategies and post-harvest marketing strategies. So, looking at, is there an optimal time of year to sell before harvest? So for producers that might not have any storage in place that can't use that, is it better just to kind of sell a little bit throughout the year? Is there certain months they should really be focused on to get the most soybeans sold beforehand? And then we're also going to look at post-harvest. So if you put those beans into storage, what kind of strategies should you be using coming out of harvest? Should you be putting futures hedges into place? Should you just be making cash sales throughout the year? Just really a whole combination of both cash and futures market strategies to see what could work best for producers.
So this research project is complete and the results are in. Turns out that it's all about basic supply and demand. Soybean buyers like to have predictable supplies, and they'll pay just a little more for the convenience. If a soybean farmer can put some product into the food chain at times other than harvest, they're likely to be more profitable. But if they wait until harvest, when there's a lot more product already in the supply chain, they're likely to be a little less profitable. Even if the farmers sell beans post-harvest, according to analyst Will Maples, they'll make a little more money. Makes all the sense in the world.
In this week's Southern Gardening, Eddie Smith takes us to a unique location where, not far from the mighty Mississippi, a gifted gardening couple has patiently grown their way to an equally unique landscape. Here's Eddie.
Perched high above the Mississippi River, the Bluff Gardens of Paul and Donna Ingram offers a breathtaking blend of both beauty and function. Let's explore their incredible space. Their landscape is a true celebration of both beauty and productivity, featuring a thoughtfully designed herb garden, a vibrant pollinator garden, and a thriving vegetable garden. Each area is carefully cultivated to blend ornamental appeal with practical purpose, making their gardens not only a feast for the eyes, but also a haven for beneficial insects and a source for fresh, homegrown harvests. The herb garden is filled with favorites like rosemary, mint, dill, and other aromatic herbs, perfect for both culinary use and ornamental appeal. The pollinator garden bursts with color and movement, anchored by salvia, coreopsis, and a variety of other blooms that attract bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. Meanwhile, The vegetable garden includes staples like tomatoes and squash, providing a steady supply of fresh produce. Each garden area is thoughtfully designed to complement the others, creating a landscape that supports pollinators and offers delicious rewards. I'm Eddie Smith, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Southern Gardening.
We'll take a short break, but stick around. Coming up, the extended version of a recent story. Tension between the U.S. and Mexico in a water treaty. Turns out that our trading partner to the south has failed dramatically on its promise to deliver water to South Texas. Now Texas farmers can't grow the crops they're used to growing. The Mexican president has made new promises, but can American farmers depend on the outcome? Water tension like never before, coming up on Farm Week. Don't go away.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believe in my own work and in the opportunity I have to make my life useful to humanity. I believe that education is a lifelong process, and the greatest university is the home. That my success as a teacher is proportional to those qualities of mind and spirit that give me welcome entrance to the homes of the families that I serve. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
I believe in people and their hopes, their aspirations and their faith. I believed that education, of which extension work is an essential part, is basic in stimulating individual initiative, self-determination, and leadership. I believe that these are the keys to democracy, and that people, when given facts they understand, will act not only in their self-interest, but also in the interest of society. I believe in intellectual freedom to search for and present the truth without bias and with courteous tolerance towards the views of others. Because I believe these things, I am an extension professional.
Time for the market report. Once again, international issues, the big deal.
That's right, Mike. You know, these things can have a dramatic effect on prices, along with normal market forces, and we'll talk about it. But first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then several new USDA reports updating us on cattle and the status of our row crops so far this year. And finally, two experts weigh in on the cattle markets and how international conflict can affect them along with row crops. So, markets closed the week moving down, but for how long? Let's take a look. The week's biggest gain, soybean oil, once again, this time up nearly 4 cents, more than a 7.5% increase from the previous week. Wheat also had a big jump by more than 7.25%. The week's biggest loss, corn, down by nearly 16 cents. That's more than a 3.5% decrease from the previous week. So, several new USDA reports released. The Cattle on Feed report updating us on the current cattle situation in the U.S., and the Crop Progress report updating us on how things look in row crops. Here's Bella Bingham with those details.
In the Cattle on Feed report, looks like the herd is still on the lower side. Cattle and calves on feed for the slaughter market down by 1% compared to June last year. Placements in feedlots during May of this year down 8% compared to 2024. Marketings of fed cattle from last month also down by 10% compared to last year, while other disappearances, which is lost from a herd or inventory that aren't accounted for by planned sales or marketing, such as natural death, movement to pasture, or transfers to different feedlots, that number unchanged compared to last year. In the Crop Progress Report, more positive news for row crops so far this year. In the 18 top corn-producing states, emergence 97%, which is 1% higher than last year and only 1% lower than the 4-year average. Corn silking, which is the emergence of the female reproductive parts from the husk of the ear, at 4%, which is the same as last year and 1% higher than the 4-year average. Corn condition in great shape, as 69% reported good to excellent. In the top 18 soybean-producing states, Mississippi included, planting 96% complete, which is the same as last year and only 1% lower than the 4-year average. Soybeans emerged at 90%, which is 1% higher than last year but equal to the 4-year average. Blooming just starting with 8% so far, which is also 1% higher than last year and the 4-year average. Condition encouraging with 67% reported good to excellent. In the top 15 cotton-producing states, Mississippi also included, planting at 92%, which is only 1% lower than last year and 3% lower than the 4-year average. Squaring, which is the flower formation stage, at 26%, which is 3% lower than last year but equal to the 4-year average. Setting bolls just beginning at 5%, which is 3% lower than last year and 1% lower than the 4-year average. Condition not too bad, with 56% reported good to excellent. In all the rice-producing states, Mississippi included, heading, which is when the seed head emerges from the stem, at 13%, which is 1% higher than last year but 5% higher than the 4-year average. Condition looking great, with 83% reported good to excellent.
As we reported in the news section, international conflicts still heating up, and they can have an effect on market prices, as we've talked about before. However, there's the normal market forces at play too. Analysts Ross Baldwin and Jeff French give us the experts' thoughts on how the market is moving, specifically in cattle.
You've got the cutout where if you take out the spike of COVID, when we got at boxes up to 410 briefly, but that was all COVID ramifications. You take that out, we are at all-time record high prices. And so far, we have not seen the consumer blink on beef demand much.
If this conflict goes longer in the Mideast, that potentially is a negative to the stock market. And if the stock market breaks, the cattle will absolutely go through with it. But yeah, we closed below 210 in August. I mean, we're kind of teetering here.
And early this morning, we had recovered. We're trading well above the 20-day. So I agree with Jeff. The 20-day remains key to watch to get back up there. But early this morning, before we had this reversal, futures market looked like it was good. Hey, have we had enough of a short-term correction like we've seen several times recently? And they just hammered the market here today. So it's I think that's what makes Monday's trade really worth watching, because this has been they've aggressively sold these rallies here over the last 10 days. And you can hit a period where, as Jeff's saying, what's left to throw at this market or the funds that they haven't already traded? Profits and extreme profits drive expansion. You go back to $7, $8 corn. What do? You go plant as much corn as you can. You clear every tree that you can possibly clear. Cattle, we're in the same boat. I feel like, while I think expansion, we are underway with expansion, and I think there's more expansion going on than what the market thinks. I don't think it takes time. I mean, you're 3 years out from that. But I do think this year, over the last few months, we have started that expansion phase. My bias says it will get confirmed in, now this is a long time away, but the January of 26 inventory report. I think 25 is when we will bottom this herd in the U.S. You're still a ways down the road from the time that it really has an effect, but it just goes back to profit. I mean, right now, it's difficult to expand it, but when you're making these kind of profit levels that you are, especially the cow-calf guy, you want more calves to sell.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Seems like some big rallies going on right now, fueled by current uncertainty. Mike?
Thanks, Zach. A few weeks ago, we brought you a preview of the feature story you're about to watch. Mexico is dramatically under-delivering on a water treaty with the U.S., and it's having a strangling effect on what Texas farmers used to be able to grow. Here's reporter John Torpy with more.
In the middle of the Rio Grande River, held back by the Enzelduas-Retamal Dam, water is being diverted to Mexico's main irrigation canal. The diversion is part of an agreement established in 1944 between the U.S. and Mexico that dictates how water from the Rio Grande, Colorado, and Tijuana rivers is to be shared between the two countries. Recently, the two countries have been at odds because of Mexico's failure to honor those water delivery mandates that help provide water to U.S. farmers in South Texas. Tensions reached a boiling point last month as President Trump used the threat of increased tariffs to force Mexico to start delivering water to rights holders in the United States.
For Texas farmers who are requesting water, there will be an immediate delivery of a certain number of millions of cubic meters that could be provided according to the water availability in the Rio Grande.
Wording in what is now known as the Water Treaty of 1944 stipulates Mexico must deliver 350,000 acre-feet of water to the United States annually. Over a 5-year cycle, the allotment is 1.75 million acre-feet of water. Deliveries are made via 2 international reservoirs on the Rio Grande River, Amistad and Falcon. After delivery, the state of Texas owns the water and grants usage to an agglomeration of agencies that distribute the precious resource to end users and water rights holders. According to data from the International Boundary and Water Commission, the governing body in charge of accounting for the water deliveries, Mexico has fallen short on delivery of promised supplies for the current cycle that ends in October of 2025. In May of 2025, IBWC data shows Mexico has delivered just over 600,000 acre-feet of water, about 1.15 million acre-feet under the amount mandated by the treaty. To meet agreement guidelines, Mexico must deliver an additional 1.15 million acre-feet of water by the end of the 5-year treaty cycle in October of 2025.
They're not paying up. They still owe us over a million acre-feet of water. Those farmers down there grow 4-5 crops because they pretty much grow year-round because of the climate. This year they had enough water to grow one crop. You can't stay in business doing that. This is crucial, getting the water treaty fixed with Mexico. So we got a real problem, and it's time we get on top of that.
USDA officials announced last March a $280 million grant agreement with the Texas Department of Agriculture to help offset economic losses by South Texas farmers who incurred a water allotment shortfall. In April of this year, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced new water deliveries to meet treaty agreements. However, Sheinbaum points to the absence of rainfall in the Rio Grande River Basin as the reason she is hampered from making good on delivering the water.
Technical proposals are being sought that will allow the treaty to be complied with, because what is happening is that there is less water in the Rio Grande, especially because we have experienced almost 4 years of drought, so there is less water.
In the fall of 2024, U.S. and Mexican officials agreed to an amendment to the 1944 treaty, allowing Mexico to utilize water from other Mexican tributaries to pay its debt. Some South Texas farmers and irrigation officials are unsure if Mexican officials will make good on the deal. Anthony Stambaugh is the general manager for the Hidalgo County Irrigation District No. 2, headquartered in San Juan, Texas. His district serves both cities and agriculture in South Texas, where roughly 30,000 acres in the Rio Grande Valley receives a portion of the water allotment.
When it comes to some of the provisions that Mexico's put on that water, they have the right to turn the light switch off at any time. Okay, so because of that, farmers cannot plan with that water. You know, why would you invest thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to prep a field, buy seed, go plant it, and then all of a sudden the water source is no longer there?
Growing a variety of commodities in South Texas helps producers keep their operations profitable. Without knowing if they have a reliable amount of water to irrigate their fields, farmers face the challenge of deciding what crops to grow.
Here's the problem. If all of South Texas is only growing 2 or 3 commodities, now you've oversupplied the market. And even worse, you've depressed the market because there's so much supply. Now you're not getting that return. So that's why crop mix is so important, and that's why it's so devastating to South Texas farmers when we can't do a crop mix.
Some producers have the advantage of being near where the water is available. Tony Martinez is a managing member of Primo Trading Services, a fresh produce brokerage. Martinez farms in both the U.S. and Mexico and acknowledges farming in both countries helps his operations navigate water supply struggles.
We have not farmed Texas watermelons in the valley in the last 4 years because we had to move that to Mexico. Why? Because our allocations of water have been less. The issue with water is something that's not going to go away, unfortunately. Of course, we're going to do our best to continue to advocate, be diligent in how we use it. You know, I feel growers have to do their part too. You know, we have to evolve with the times. We have to be more efficient in farming. But unfortunately, I strongly believe that this water issue will continue to be an issue. You know, I don't see it going away anytime soon.
Not going away anytime soon. Challenges ahead for those farmers in South Texas. Well, next week, say cheese. No one's about to take your picture. We head to Iowa for a dairy success story all about the art of making cheese.
They used to be in the milk business. Now they're known worldwide for their specialty cheese, which they make from Amish and Mennonite milk just down the road.
An old world partnership, the cheesiest story you can imagine. You cheddar believe it. That's next time on Farm Week.
Remember, if you missed a story, look for past episodes of Farm Week on our website at farmweek.tv.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. See you next week. Thanks for watching.